This SecKit SK-Tank 3D printer is completely operational. Today I'm going to share with you my customizations and a few tricks I use to help get it dialed in. This beast of a 3D printer, the premium coreXY SecKit SK-Tank, is well and truly alive and performing well. I've built this machine in a series, and in the last installment the electronics and firmware were installed but no printing took place. In this video we're going to change that, with some impressively fast and high quality test prints, but before we get to that stage we're going to cover tuning and customization. The first job is not very exciting and I have covered it before, and it's going through the configuration checks that Klipper recommends in its docs. These are things like testing the emergency stop, making sure the correct heater heats up when commanded, making sure the end stops are working, the stepper motors are going in the right direction, and finally things like PID auto tuning. All I can say is that this part went quite smoothly. Next up was tuning input shaping and pressure advance, which I've covered both of in detail before in a dedicated video, so we'll keep things concise here. In case you didn't know, input shaping is pure magic, allowing you to print with high speed and acceleration, but without the associated surface artifact known as ringing that you would usually expect. Once again, I went for an ADXL 343, which is much cheaper than the more popular 345, but works just as well. The Big Tree Tech Octopus board has enough input-output and is powerful enough to have the accelerometer plugged directly into it rather than the Raspberry Pi, which simplifies installation. I actually looked up the wiring from the RatRig documentation, adapting it into a dedicated diagram for this printer. With this setup, the changes in the firmware are minimal. This config, by the way, is linked below in the description. To mount the accelerometer, I came up with this very simple and tidy bracket, which bolts to the rear carbon fiber plate and holds the accelerometer out of the way. When I need to tune input shaping, I simply plug the loom in and then run the Shaper Calibrate auto tuning command. This will vibrate the X and then Y axis at increasing frequencies and then make recommendations, which you can save to your config. The whole thing is incredibly easy and very effective, because just like that, ringing is almost entirely eliminated. Next, onto pressure advance, and I started by following the docs exactly. This meant slicing at 100mm per second with a tall layer height. This gave me a calculated pressure advance of 0.06, but I found that when I turned up the feed rate, I was starting to have some breakdown in the corners, and this looked very much like the breakdown you get when your pressure advance value is too high. So I resliced the test pattern with my normal printing speed and layer height, and this time didn't limit the acceleration. The result was a pressure advance value exactly half as much of 0.03, and this improvement translated well to all of my prints thereafter with nice crisp corners. This printer is intended for experienced users who know exactly what they want and can customize accordingly, so that's exactly what I did. Next up, an interface, and I had installed Klipper Screen on a previous printer and wanted to have it for this one. I found a locally available TFT screen, which is a little bit cheaper than some of the others. You can connect the two remotely with cables, but I think it works best when you plug it directly into the Raspberry Pi. We use a single standoff for rigidity, and then plug in this HDMI adapter directly between the Pi and the TFT, and that's all of our wiring done. I just needed an enclosure. I downloaded this excellent Raspberry Pi model from Hassanein Shuja and used it as the basis to design my enclosure around in Onshape. We start by sliding the Pi in sideways into the front housing and pushing it down flush. This should have all of the ports lining up with the case, including the two power ports for the Pi and TFT. Next we take the internal brace, slide it forward, push it down, and use two M3 countersunk bolts to hold it into place to the front housing. Now is a good time to dummy fit the rear lid and make sure that you can access the Pi's SD card, but before you install it permanently, you need to take the anchors and push them through from the rear before they click into their final position, and that means the holes will be lined up to insert some more M3 hardware. Some more countersunk M3 bolts can then be used to attach the rear lid to the front housing, and everything should feel secure and rigid before you proceed. The mounting foot attaches to the anchors with M5 bolts, just loose at this stage, because now we're going to attach the foot to the frame of the printer before setting our final screen position and tightening up the bolts. Klipper Screen is a full-featured interface, and on this TFT it works quite well. The main downside is that the TFT has no software control of the backlight, which means when the screensaver comes on, the whole thing appears to light up white. If you're looking to use this TFT and need an enclosure, I've put all of the files online on Thingiverse, including a link through to my source CAD if you want to get some step files, and although I designed it to fit the tank, it will also mount to any V-slot extrusion, which is why I also printed one for my RatRig V-Core 3. Definitely a solution I'm happy with, so onto some more quality of life mods. First up, I mounted a webcam on an extremely simple bracket to the top front of the machine. This has benefits in terms of general usability because we can see the webcam feed on the mainsail UI. What wasn't convenient was a lack of permanent lighting to utilize the webcam effectively. So I designed this simple LED strip mounting parts and mounted a 3-part LED strip that would bolt to the upper frame of the printer. The LEDs face downwards and away from the webcam, which illuminates the print area very nicely. The LEDs are 5 volts, so I ran them into one of the fan ports on the Octopus and then selected the 5 volt jumper. This means they can be G-code controlled, and I have them turn on in my start G-code and turn off in my end G-code. Let's take it a step further and install Moonraker Timelapse, which has been developed by the mainsail crew to add time-lapse functionality to Klipper installations and features thorough documentation, including a great video from Vez 3D that I used for my setup. Once installed, from the settings menu, we have a full interface for setting up the time-lapse. This comes with a range of different options. We also get a time-lapse tab in the main interface that lists all of the previous time-lapses, where you can preview them in the browser, as well as download them to your computer. And before you start each print, you have the option to toggle the time-lapse on or off. The whole system is easy to use and works very well, and I'm very happy to have a printer that can make well illuminated clear time-lapses. That's another win, so now to improve a weakness. With the default speed of 100mm per second, the part calling on this printer was definitely up for the task. However, when I doubled it to 200mm per second as I use on the RatRig, the part calling couldn't quite keep up, and the print quality deteriorated as a result. For the RatRig, a pre-made upgrade was available to go from single to twin blower fans. And for the SK-Tank, thanks to user Declinox, a similar upgrade is available, so I was happy to use it. What I like about this upgrade is the versatility. It can accommodate the standard probe or a BL Touch, and it has a number of different duct options to accommodate an E3D V6, E3D Volcano, or a Dragon hot end. It also has very detailed written instructions for fitment. The base plate of the new system replaces the existing front carbon fiber plate, so we need to start by disassembling everything that's attached to it. Once the front carbon plate is off, we're reminded that all of the belts are still connected to carbon fiber parts, so there should be no loss in rigidity. I only had 12 volt and 5 volt fans left over, so I ran them side by side to compare the flow, with the 12 volt fans winning out, so I wired them together in parallel to a single plug. We start preparing the main plate by bolting on the ABL probe mount, as well as a heatsink fan which now goes on the rear. And then closer to the machine, we sandwich the plate between the BMG clone extruder and the pancake stepper motor. We then bolt the printed piece into place where the carbon fiber plate used to be, and finally clip the blower fans into place and use a single M5 bolt to retain them. So far I've found this design quite easy to work on, but of course the main benefit is that we've significantly upgraded our part cooling capability. Of course, after such a change, there's a few things that need to be retuned, but the payoff is definitely worth it. So how does it print after all of this? Well, I've had one persistent niggle, but despite this, it's still working really well. Firstly, a thank you to Mike Simpson for providing a super slicer config that saved me some time when I was getting started. I spent a lot of time with this printer trying to dial out some stringing, with the very frustrating occurrence that no matter how much I varied the retraction speed and length, I'd still have obvious blobs on travel moves. I mostly managed to solve this, and it was related to temperature. To print at these speeds in PLA on the RatRig requires an extruder temp of 220 degrees. Whereas on the tank I found I got stringing at anything over 200, but to help flow I set a compromise of 205 degrees. To me the filament path doesn't feel that smooth, so with the higher temperature I'm hopefully removing a little bit of resistance to aid with high speed printing. With the downside being some finer wisps of filament on travel moves, but I do have a hardware change on the horizon that should address this. Early on, before I had really dialed in retraction, I printed this vampire castle from Mini World 3D. This print was more of a proof of concept to see if the SK-Tank could print at my desired 200mm per second with 5K acceleration. No troubles there, but stringing for days because I was still running the higher hot end temperature at that stage. At least on this model it kind of fits because it makes it look spooky. A little later I also printed this articulated snake from Technical 50. It's a print in place design, and as you can see I still didn't have the retraction sorted at that stage. Apart from being the world's first hairy snake, the model works as intended. It articulates very nicely, and the colour changing filament I used gives it a nice two-tone effect when you look at the belly. As my showcase print, once I had everything sorted, I chose this Millennium Falcon from Fab 365, and I highly recommend this as an all-round test for any 3D printer. It has a nice mix of parts, some of them tiny and prone to falling off the build plate, others with a small footprint to test bed adhesion, and then large overhangs to test the effectiveness of the part cooling. Whether they were small, intricate parts, or much larger parts, everything you're about to see was printed with the same speed as my other test models, a 200mm per second base feed rate, 5K acceleration, and 5mm per second square corner velocity. With these settings, the parts printed way faster than what was quoted on the website, without losing any detail or quality, and for me, that's the point of a premium 3D printer like this. High speed printing, but also with high quality. After reviewing the excellent video instructions on the Fab 365 website, I remarked that the clearances on my own printed model were spot on, with all of the moving parts snapping free and being able to slide into position. I tried to get my son to help me with the assembly, but unfortunately he wasn't quite strong enough to snap the pieces into position. That at least meant more fun for me. To me, the finished model is quite frankly beautiful, both in terms of the way it's been printed on the SK-Tank as well as its stunning design. The whole thing is covered in detail, and there's movable parts such as the radar and guns, and the boarding ramp also flips down, just another amazing detail. This result is the combination of all my tinkering and customization, and testament to the quality of the printer. The good news is things will only improve from here as I continue to modify. The next change I plan to make is fitting the E3D Revo system. It's intended to be easy to use for the masses, but I want to see if it can handle the high-speed demands of this 3D printer. There's been one question that I've seen a lot in the comments of this series. What is better out of the SecKit SK-Tank and the Ratrig VCore 3? The truth is, well, they're both fantastic. Each is Wi-Fi enabled and very easy to use, and they're capable of fast printing, but retaining high quality. There's little areas where I prefer one to the other, but the truth is their specs and capabilities are actually quite similar. I'd say the Tank is a little easier to build physically, whereas the VCore 3 is smoother in terms of firmware setup. Both are good in default spec, but offer an upgrade and customization path too. Some people are desperate for the declaration of a winner, but the truth is we're living in a time where we're spoilt for choice for premium 3D printers. I'm really happy with the SecKit SK-Tank, and I'm equally happy with the Ratrig VCore 3, and I would suggest that anyone who had either of these machines would feel the same way. Let me know what you think down in the comments section. Thank you so much for watching this build series, and until next time, happy 3D printing. G'day, it's Michael again. If you like the video, then please click like. If you want to see more content like this in future, click subscribe, and make sure you click on the bell to receive every notification. If you really want to support the channel and see exclusive content, become a patron. Visit my Patreon page. See you next time.